Earlier today, I was taking a look at the Packers encyclopedia on Pro Football Reference, and I'm not sure if you guys do this, but you can take a look at, teams and their histories, and it basically gives you an overview of each season, where they finished in the playoffs, where they ranked when it came to offensive points scored, defense points allowed. And so it gives you just a good idea of, the team's history. And earlier today, I was looking through the Packers, and I came across something I hadn't really realized before. And the reason I looked into this is because I was looking at the Packers' past season. And this past year, the Packers had the 8th best scoring offense in the NFL, and they were 6th in points allowed. So all in all, it was a very successful season. And I was curious how many times under Aaron Rodgers the Packers had a top 10 offense in points scored and top 10 defense in points allowed. And honestly, I was a little surprised at this. It only happened twice in Aaron Rodgers' career, and that's not because Rodgers didn't have a lot of top 10 offenses. The Packers had 10 top 10 scoring offenses when Rodgers was in Green Bay. So clearly, 8 of those 10 years, the defense was not a top 10 unit. And I think when you look at Aaron Rodgers and his career and you compare it to someone like Tom Brady, the thing that Tom Brady had that Rodgers never had was consistent top tier defenses. And so I do think in the whole, GOAT conversation that it is true. If Rodgers had the same defenses that Brady had, I assume he would have had more Super Bowls overall. Not necessarily more than Brady, but just more than Rodgers finished with. And so the 2 years the Packers had top 10 offenses and top 10 defenses when it came to points scored and points allowed overall was in 2009 and 2010 with Aaron Rodgers. The first year, the Packers lose in the wild card round in Aaron Rodgers' second year starting. They had a number 3 scoring offense, number 7 ranked scoring defense. And then the next year, they have the number 10 ranked scoring offense, number 2 ranked scoring defense. And that's the year they win the Super Bowl. So pretty interesting there. And already with Jordan Love, the Packers have a top 10 offense and top 10 defense in Jordan Love's second season starting, which is something that only happened twice in all of Aaron Rodgers' career. And so I think that the good thing about this Packers team is that they are overall a very solid unit, offensively and defensively combined. And I think this offseason, it's good to be in the spot where the Packers are right now, where clearly there's always things to improve, things to fix to really take your team to the next level. And I think unless you're the Eagles, every team left the season disappointed. And so the fact that in Jeff Hafley's first year, the 6th best scoring defense and points allowed, that's solid. 8th best scoring offense. And of course, there are lots of things to fix, a lot of holes to fix. But I feel like sometimes we can get so focused on all those negatives that we do lose sight of, how good this Packers team really was just historically in the regular season. And clearly, regular season at the end of the day doesn't matter. It really matters what happens in the playoffs. And the Packers lost in the wild card round. So clearly, there's a lot of frustration there after, winning a playoff game the year prior. But I do think that there's a lot to build off of. And if we do look to that 2009 season where the Packers lose in the wild card round, the next year Rodgers wins the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying here that next year the Packers will win the Super Bowl, even though I hope they can. I hope they will, obviously. But I think that in Jeff Hafley's first year as offensive coordinator, to have the defense playing like he had them play, throughout majority of the year, it was a very, very solid year. And so the whole point here is that the Packers, I think, had a somewhat underrated 2024 season. Yes, they needed to be more consistent. They needed to play better against some of the top-tier teams, but this was a team that was one of the more complete teams in the NFL, and they have a lot of those same exact pieces to build off of heading into the 2025 season. And so I think that, as I said, with every team in the NFL, outside of the Eagles, you probably don't feel satisfied even if you got to the Super Bowl and lost, even if you got to an NFC championship and AFC championship. And I just feel like, all these years that, I've really been a Packers fan. I was born in 1997. There haven't been many years where the Packers, greatly, disappointed me. Sure, you have those years here and there where they don't play as great, but to be able to have an organization to root for that is consistently competing, consistently every year, you at least have a hope of a Super Bowl, even though it may not feel super close. I think with moving from Rodgers to Jordan Love, you at first were like, okay, how good is Jordan Love going to be? Are we going to stay in this same type of expectation as fans where it's sort of Super Bowl or bust every single year? And luckily, we're sort of still in that place with Jordan Love, and he's good enough, I think, to take this Packers team to a Super Bowl. He needs to be more consistent, there are some concerns I have, but he's still a very, very solid quarterback. And so there are a lot of things to like about this Packers team heading into 2025. And one of the things I'm most excited about is seeing what this Packers defense does in year 2 under Joe Barry, just because I think anytime you head into a second season with a new, after having year 1 under the new offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, you don't have to, teach every player from the beginning once again, where if you're the Packers defensive players, you go from Joe Barry's defense to Jeff Hafley's defense. And so all offseason, you're having to learn the new terminology, the new way that, Hafley likes to call things. And I think Hafley throughout the season got a better idea of, what the Packers' strengths and weaknesses were based on the different players. And so I think that we're going to see this defense start off much faster, much better going into 2025, just because this a whole offseason, they don't have to, except the new players who come in. All the guys who are already there already know the whole scheme, know the whole system. So just imagine how it's going to, transform how much faster this team can sort of get off to a fast start heading into the 2025 season. So I think there are a ton of things to be hopeful about. And of course, we'll always talk about areas the Packers can improve, things they need to do. But this is a team that I do think has a legit chance to make a deep playoff run, just like as I thought going into last season as well. But I just wanted to point that out, sort of show that there, because I saw that earlier today looking through the Packers encyclopedia. But if you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.